What is up? Welcome to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Glad to have you in today for my 2 cent segment where I go off on the biggest topics of the sports week. I want to start. Actually, this is a big college basketball week because the men's college basketball and women's are back now. So lots of stuff to get to. I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of this 2 cents, but I wanted to start with the Las Vegas Raiders situation. Now, we've been talking a lot about them this year because they've been pretty good. At 5-4, they're still a viable team. They're tied for first place with the Chargers, who had a big weekend. But I'm sure some of you have noticed, man, what is happening in Las Vegas with the Raiders? They went from started out real hot. They got John Gruden still the coach, right? Then the Gruden stuff happens. Then the Henry Ruggs situation. If you guys didn't know about this is the guy that they had to cut and release who's probably going to go to prison, allegedly, because he killed somebody in a drunk driving accident. He was going 156 miles per hour in Las Vegas. And at impact, it was 127 miles per hour. Killed an innocent girl. So they had to let him go. And then this past week, they cut another cornerback for holding a gun at some fans. So within the span of 1 week, they have now released and cut their 2 first-round picks from the 2020 draft. And I have this stat up here for you guys, or at least some info to go over the 2020 Las Vegas Raiders draft. First-round pick, Ruggs, going to prison. First-round pick, Arnett, just got cut. Third-round pick, traded, didn't play a snap for the Raiders. Other third-round pick, starting wide receiver, Brian Edwards, barely can get a target. Their other third-round pick, cut, Tanner Muse. Fourth-round pick, Simpson, he's a backup now. And their other fourth-round pick is benched with a healthy scratch, right? Doesn't even play. That's your 2020 Raiders draft. Now, the GM of the Raiders is Mike Mayock, who I actually used to as a I never played organized football. But for someone listening and watching games, you have to listen. The analysts chime in a lot nowadays. He was actually really good on NFL Network. So if you guys remember Mike Mayock, he was an analyst on NFL Network. Now he's the GM of the Raiders. This dude can't get it right with a lot of their picks. They continuously miss on their draft picks. Even guys that they weren't getting in trouble, they just miss. Guys that just can't cut it in the NFL, the wrong personnel, the wrong character. They just can't get it right in Las Vegas. And they're an organization that is just going through a lot of turmoil right now. So, and Derek Carr is trying to hold it all together as the quarterback. And they got the tight end Waller, who's good. They got the little white receiver, Hunter Renfrow, who's like a possession guy. They don't have much outside of that. Josh Jacobs is a pretty good player as a running back, but a lot of trouble going on in Las Vegas. And people say, well, this is what happens when you get to Las Vegas. No, you can find trouble wherever you want. Wherever you want to find trouble, you'll find it. Just depends on the kind of character you are. So I don't know if this was a lack of attention to detail on the type of players they were drafting or the backgrounds of some of these players. Obviously, you don't know anything, right? You don't know what these guys are going to turn into once they get some money. Once they get some fame, who knows? And Henry Ruggs, the guy that had the DUI and killed the girl, he came from a Top Golf and he just drank too much. But when you're going 156 miles per hour, that's a problem. Like this is not even 100. 100's fast. 156, that's like you might as well start racing NASCAR. Like that's crazy stuff. So you can't control everything when you're drafting players, but what you can control is the draft process and the due diligence that you do and you perform on these guys. So I know you can only do so much, but man, a lot of crazy stuff going on with the Las Vegas Raiders. So I want to start with them. Big win for the Chargers this past weekend. Justin Herbert came back to life. The Philadelphia Eagles are 0-4 at home. I don't believe Jalen Hurts is that dude. The quarterback, I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he's your typical college guy that runs around a lot, that can make some throws here and there, but I'm not a believer so far in Jalen Hurts. Don't get confused by his fantasy numbers. He runs a lot, so he gets a lot of bonus points for that. I don't get it with Philly, man. The coach has a lot of weird analogies. I think in the press conference last week, he was saying they're like flowers ready to grow and sprout. Come on, dude. He was playing rock, paper, scissors with some of the rookies or draft prospects or something like that, like to test their competitiveness. That's Nick Sirianni, the head coach of Philly. Yeah, not sure what's going on there. All I know is they're 0-4 at home in Philadelphia. So not going well for Philadelphia right now. Tennessee made a huge statement. The Titans without Derrick Henry, what a big game that was. In LA, Sunday Night Football at SoFi against the Rams are a hot team right now. No Derrick Henry, no problem. Adrian Peterson, signed him off the couch. You guys know AP, 36 years old, scored a touchdown this past weekend. So huge defensive effort. I think they had a pick six, at least one against Matt Stafford. Great game for the Titans on a big road win for them. I did want to get to a little bit of college football. The rankings just came out Tuesday night, and somehow, Michigan is ahead of Michigan State. Michigan State beat Michigan last weekend, and the committee wanted nothing to do with it. Their quote from Gary Barta, the chairman of the committee, said, "We just believe Michigan's a more complete team," even though they have the same record, 8-1, and they just lost to Michigan State this past weekend. Explain that one. This just tells you that the committee is all about ratings and fan bases that are going to bring crowds to watch these games. That's all it's about. Look, they don't want Cincinnati to get in there. They're trying every possible way to get Cincinnati out of the top four. They want Ohio State. They want a West Coast representative, whether it's Oregon, but they're not going to get USC. They're going to get Oregon. So they want them in there to pull the West Coast people in to watch. And they want Alabama because that's Alabama. They want everyone to watch them. And Georgia is by far the number one team in the country. They deserve it over anybody else. So they want representation from the big brands in the country. And Michigan, if they can sneak Michigan in the top four, you know they will. Notre Dame, still in the top 10. Don't have really any signature wins. And Cincinnati beat Notre Dame in South Bend already. The committee wants Notre Dame to somehow sneak in there somewhere. They want Michigan. They want Notre Dame. They want the big names. Bottom line is it's a BS thing that the committee does where they hold all the cards and they just get to choose who's going based on ratings. Because if you're doing it by the facts, Michigan State just beat Michigan and they should be in the at least the top 4 or 5. They should be 5 or 6. So it's insane actually what happens with the committee, that it's all about ratings and not about the facts. So anyway, do with that what you will. Purdue did upset Michigan State. That was a bad loss, but Purdue has a couple upsets this year. So it's not like it's the worst loss. It's not like the loss to Appalachian State, which Michigan did many years ago. But man, I feel bad for Michigan State and Cincinnati a little bit. Cincinnati, because they should have never been in the top 4 to begin with. But when you open Pandora's box and you put Cincinnati in the top 4 a couple weeks ago, they're going to expect that with 9-0 record, they haven't done anything wrong, but they got kicked out of the top 4 because Alabama started winning again. It's all BS. Last couple notes I want to do a couple baseball things. College basketball is back. Watch Gonzaga this year. I'm telling you right now, they got a kid. I don't know if any of you know this name, Chet Holmgren, the white Kevin Durant. I'm going to say it again. Chet Holmgren, the white Kevin Durant. This dude can flat out ball at Gonzaga. He's a freshman, one of the top 3 players in the country. He'll be a first-round pick easy in the NBA draft. Watch this kid this year. And Gonzaga is really good. They got Drew Timme back. They lost a couple of guys in the NBA like Jalen Suggs, if you remember him, Corey Kispert. But Gonzaga's back. They're going to be good. UCLA's got almost everybody back, I think, with a couple other guys coming in this year, including Johnny Juzang, who went to the NBA draft process, did the combine, decided to come back. So he's back in the fold. But college basketball, I missed having college basketball. It's going to be exciting. Love the tournament, having March Madness, best time of the year. So I'm glad college basketball is back. Memphis is going to be good as well. Penny Hardaway, if you didn't know that, has been coaching Memphis the last few years. They got a good team in Memphis. And we'll see what the overrated Big Ten does. Love this stat. The Big Ten in men's college basketball doesn't have a national championship since Tom Izzo and the 2000 Michigan State Spartans, okay? 21 years going on 22 years where the Big Ten doesn't have a national championship in basketball. So the overrated Big Ten in all sports strikes again. They have great teams. Don't get me wrong, okay? Don't jump down my throat for that one. But the Big Ten is usually overrated. They're good, not great. Last thing, Buster Posey, catcher for the Giants, just retired, 34 years old. Kind of a shock. One of the best catchers of the last 15 years. 3 World Series. Let me give you some numbers just so I have this right on Buster Posey. So you know he's a no doubt first ballot Hall of Famer. 7-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion, 2012 NL MVP, 2012 batting champion in the NL, 2010 Rookie of the Year, 2016 Gold Glover as a catcher, 4-time Silver Slugger Award. 4 times Silver Slugger Award. And I mentioned 7-time All-Star, 2012 MVP, 3-time World Series champion. And he's one of the best defensive catchers of all time. He makes pitchers better the way he frames pitches, the way he calls games. Look how good the Giants did this year. They weren't good without him during the pandemic when he sat out during the pandemic. Buster comes back. Look how good the Giants pitching is this year. He's a difference maker. He's a total difference maker. Buster Posey, in my opinion, shouldn't even be a debate. first ballot Hall of Famer. He's like only one of a few catchers with 1,500 hits, 1,000 games caught, and like one of the nerd stats over 1,000 OPS or whatever the numbers is. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I say Buster Posey, no doubt. St. Louis Cardinals, first time in history, they have 5 Gold Glovers on defense this year. 5 Gold Glovers for the St. Louis Cardinals. First time in MLB history to have that many on one team in 1 year. And also the Cardinals have 24 more Golden Gloves than any other MLB organization. That's how you develop defense. Very impressive by the St. Louis Cardinals. Lots of MLB free agency coming up. We'll see how everybody goes. Nikola Jokic got suspended for a game for his dust up with one of the Morris twins, Markieff, who they're looking for trouble, right? The fake tough guys in the NBA. Jokic said, give me the smoke right now. Let's go. So kind of fun to see Jokic. Not obviously, I don't want him to hurt anybody, but he's not backing down. He's the MVP of the league. So don't mess with Nikola Jokic and the Serbian brothers that he has, by the way. They look like they're in the mafia. So anyway, lots of exciting stuff in sports. My interview is with Travis Reed today, former UCLA basketball player, played overseas. He played in the Matt Barnes, Baron Davis, Earl Watson era. If you guys remember the early 2000 UCLA Bruins, Steve Lavin was the coach, who's now an analyst on Fox. So my interviews with Travis Reed, we talk about all of his overseas pro sports career as well. So lots of fun stuff today. Hope you enjoyed my 2 cents, and I'll see you next time on the other side of this interview with Travis Reed. Ladies and gentlemen, football is back, NFL and college, and all of your NBA and NHL and playoff baseball needs over the next few months. And the Too Tall Sports podcast is proudly brought to you by Vegas Sports Advantage. VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Use my promo code TOOTALL to get 25% off all of their texting packages. So what that means is they are going to text you right before a slate of games will start. Let's say for football Sunday, the games usually start, the first round starts at 10 a.m. They'll text you at about 9:50, 9:55. You got to be ready on your computer or on your app, wherever you bet your games, whichever sports book or sporting bets website you use your own. This is just a service that's going to text you their top picks based on the algorithm that they have set up. They wait till all the big sharp money comes in, and then they give you their best bet or two right before the games start at different times of the day. So they do text you the picks. You take care of them on your own and bet however much you want. They usually recommend 1 or 2 units of your normal, $50, $100, whatever you like to bet. Use your own judgment on that. However, VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Use my promo code TOOTALL. That's TOOTALL for 25% off all of the packages that they give you. They'll text you the picks. You get a certain number of picks, and then it'll run out, and you can use my promo code again if you want to. But 25% off. They're awesome. I use them. I make money off them all the time. I use my own sports book that I've chosen to put my bets on. But Vegas Sports Advantage is legit. They use their algorithms. Check them out. VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Promo code TOOTALL. This is the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Happy to have on Travis Reed. He played basketball at UCLA in the late 90s for Steve Lavin. He played with guys like, you probably know these names, Baron Davis, Earl Watson, Dan Gadzuric, Jerome Moiso, Matt Barnes. He played with all these dudes. He grew up with Paul Pierce, all the LA scene of high school basketball. Even if you guys remember the name Shea Cotton, who was like the man that never was in high school and pro basketball, went to Mater Dei. He played against him as a child, and then when Travis Reed also went to Long Beach State to play, and then he played overseas for a number of years, and he was the Dutch MVP when he was in the Netherlands. Tons of stories about that. So great episode with Travis Reed, all about college and pro hoops. It's a fun one, and he's got some great stories. So you guys will really enjoy this episode. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. I do a lot of video content there. Hit me up, send me a DM, a message. If you like my content, please do that. Also, weekly, I am on Colorcast and YouTube Live. Please check those out. It's a lot of fun. I'm trying to build that momentum there for the weekly show and seeing if that's kind of the style that I want to go. But it's a lot of fun. It's more loose. I do my weekly updates, kind of like my 2 cents, but I just put stuff out there in topics. And if you guys want to ask me topics, I'm ready to go off on them. I got takes for days, as they say. So anyway, check that out. Colorcast app. Just look for Too Tall Sports or YouTube Live. Tuesday nights, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. That's where I'll be. So that's Tuesday nights, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, YouTube Live, and Colorcast. One word, Colorcast. And then you can find me on Twitter at Too Tall Sports. Also, if you go to our YouTube channel, please check me out there, Too Tall Sports Podcast. If you haven't been there before, please subscribe. Hit the bell notification, the little bell icon. You'll get notified every time we drop an episode, which is Thursday mornings on YouTube at 9 a.m. Pacific time. On Apple and Spotify, it's probably like 5 a.m. Pacific time. So right when you wake up, you can listen to me, my soothing, wonderful voice, and my sports takes. But anyways, yeah, please subscribe on YouTube. That'd be awesome. Like, share, comment, all that stuff. On Apple Podcasts, if you could, same thing. Like it, subscribe, scroll all the way down if you could on Apple. If you're there right now, it'll take you 2 seconds if you haven't done it already. I know my loyal listeners have done it, so thank you for bearing with me. But go ahead and scroll down on the episodes page. Find those 5 stars. If you could hit the 5 stars, that'd be awesome. I really appreciate that. It helps the show grow. And also leave a review down below the stars. That also helps as well, just to get those ratings and exposure going so we can be one of the best podcasts in the world. We're also on Spotify. If you listen there, just subscribe and follow along. And then we are also on Amazon Music, Google Play, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. We're there. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. If you haven't subscribed or liked anything yet, please do so. Check out my Instagram at Too Tall Sports Podcast. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to my interview with Travis Reed.
We had a pond.
Going crazy.
All right, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest is a native of Los Angeles. He played his college ball at UCLA and Long Beach State. He had a very successful career overseas with multiple teams during his time as a pro basketball player over there. He's seen a lot of basketball in his life, and I'm happy to hear his story today. And he is Travis Reed. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. You've like I mentioned, you've seen a lot in basketball, so I want to get the perspective from somebody that has played professionally, but never went to the NBA. So you've seen a lot, and you played with a lot of great players in your career as well. So I did want to start with your younger years and your childhood. I heard on another podcast you say that your dad was in the armed forces and you had to move around a lot. So what was your childhood like in that regard?
Well, starting up, I grew up in South Central LA. My father, like I said, was for the first 8 years of my life, he was in the military. So I would go back and forth. I would stay with my grandma for a little bit, then go back to where my mom and father was. We lived in North Dakota, which is probably the coldest place on the planet.
Yeah.
We lived in Sacramento. We was at Travis Air Force Base. We would have been stationed in Texas for a minute. We didn't necessarily get there, but for the first 8 years of my life, like I said, I was a military. My father's in the Air Force.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I think eventually you ended up moving to Fontana for a little bit, right?
Yeah, there was pretty much when I was 8, I moved back to South Central LA.
Okay.
And that's when my mom and my father were still together. So I grew up, I started playing AAU. I played for my father until I was about 11.
Okay.
And 12. And then I started playing AAU basketball with ARC. And two people that was on ARC at the time was Jason and Jaron Collins.
Right.
They both obviously played in the NBA for a long time. Jaron still coaches. Was with Golden State, during their dynasty. I think he's coaching somewhere else now. I'm not sure. Jason obviously played in the finals, played against the Lakers and Shaq on New Jersey Nets back then. Like I said, they both had long NBA careers. I grew up with them. And back then, California was so enriched with talent. Growing up, I played with Baron Davis. I've been knowing him since I was like 10, 11. We played together K-Swiss. I've been knowing Shea Cotton since I was about 11. I'm going
to ask you about him in a second.
Yeah. So I'll save this the first time for that when you ask me. But Paul Pierce, Toby Bailey, all these guys, who played in the NBA back then, we all played in Victoria Park. And anybody who's played back then knows Victoria Park had all the talent. It was the Slam and Jam League where everybody played.
Okay. And even that was like when you were really young. And I remember you also mentioned guys like Charles O'Bannon as well, another UCLA guy. So you played with a lot of UCLA guys growing up. Did you know how good those guys were when you were that age?
I would say this: Baron Davis was really good. He just was really, really short.
Right.
He was like, I was like, who is this little short buff kid that could score over everybody, including Jason and Jaren? Because Jason and Jaren, when they were about 12 years old, they was about 6'7" and 6'8" already. And so I'm like, I remember I played against them and their team beat my team by like 20. I'm just like, my dad was like, it might be time for you to move to a different team, because my dad was a boys and girls club team. And they were like, like I said, AAU basketball. So I guess the best person I saw back then was Shea. Shea was 11. I mean, I give you the story of when I first played against him.
Sure.
They were the national champions. And we were like, national champions? What are you talking about? We know, because we just played around the city.
Right.
That means they went to one state, they played all the other AU teams in the country, and they won. And I'm just like, I didn't even know they had stuff like that. So, we're pretty cocky. We heard of Shea, because everything's word of mouth back then. There's no YouTube and all that.
Right.
And so Shea, like one of my teammates tried to pass the ball to me, and Shea steals it. And it's one of those like kind of breakaway things. And we're running back trying to catch him. And Shea comes down, like dribble, boom, and dunks it. And we looked around like, did he just dunk it? Back then I was touching the, maybe the backboard, maybe. I was like, this dude just dunked it at 11. And we was like, oh, okay. So this is like Shea Cotton, okay. After that game, they beat us by like 40. And then I was like, okay, now I know who this dude is. They was talking about he was the number one 6th, 7th grader in the country. And I was like, I didn't realize they rated dudes like that. So.
And I was because I think he went to Mater Dei, right?
Yeah, he went to Mater Dei.
Yeah, and you ended up playing them in the CIF finals, I believe, or state championship later on?
Yeah, to go to state. I was at Crenshaw with Chris Johnson, trained folks. Tommy Davis, a bunch of other players. And then he was on Mater Dei, and we beat him to win, to go to state and then win state.
Wow.
Crenshaw at that time was, I'm biased, but it was probably the greatest high school team of just high school kids. Like I don't count like Oak Hill Academy and these prep schools.
Sure.
But
like a public high school.
Like a public high, it was the greatest high school public team I've ever saw.
Yeah.
Like
who else was on it?
Like I said, Chris Johnson, he was state player of the year as a junior, came back, was all team first state. Tremaine Folks, who obviously went to the NBA, played for the Clippers, Detroit, and Indiana. He was state player of the year that year. Tommy Davis, who was a transfer, was the number one point guard in the city. He ended up going to Houston and then graduated from Long Beach State. Ronnie Arch, who was all city player of the year the next year. He was a junior. God rest his soul. Reggie McFadden, who was all city first team. Like the team.
You guys are loaded.
It was a loaded team. It was sick. Like I said, that team, like I said, I saw Chino Hills when they went undefeated. I saw other teams in California, but since I've been watching basketball, that was the best California team I've ever saw.
Damn. And speaking of Shea Cotton, so if you guys don't know who he is, he's like Travis was saying, an absolute phenom in his younger years in high school. What do you think happened to him? Do you think he peaked in high school and that was it? Like, why do you think he didn't make it?
Well, I think, man, it's always circumstances. I think that Shea had he was actually part of our class, which was the number one recruiting class in the country.
Yeah.
It was me, Baron Davis, Earl Watson, Billy Knight, Rico Hines, Todd Ramazar, and Shea. And so we all went to UCLA together and played all summer together. And then he had a situation where they said his test scores or something like that wasn't properly graded or something. I'm not 100% sure that he would have to speak on that, what happened. Yeah. But they said that I guess he took the test wrong or something like that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. And he was declared ineligible. And then he was going to have to, he wasn't able to play. So he actually had to leave and then go prep school.
Right.
And then go like to Long Beach City. And then he ended up going to Alabama, or was supposed to go to NC State, and then something happened. And then he ended up going to Alabama and then left to go pro after 1 year and just never, and they didn't get drafted and just never found out.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody could have went out of high school back then, because there were very few guys that went. He could have went out of high school. His name was that big. He really could have. He probably would have got drafted in the first round easy if he would have left out of high school.
Yeah, damn, it's crazy when you think some of that just happens to some of these guys.
No.
I think there was that other dude that was like LeBron's age, Lenny Cook, I think.
Yeah,
Same type of thing.
Yeah,
like really good in high school, but just didn't.
Yeah, like I said, like Lenny, like his situation where I think he did knucklehead stuff.
Right, right. He didn't have it up here.
Yeah, he did knucklehead stuff, but like Shea was a good kid. I think that like he just got caught up in some stuff, and like I said, he played overseas,
right,
10 years or whatever. But out of all the people, because out of that 97 class, just the 97 class. Baron Davis, who played like 14 years in the NBA, Jason and Jaren Collins played 10, 12 years each. Jeff Chapange,
USC, right?
USC, played the NBA. 97 in California was, and obviously countless guys like myself, Billy Knight, who played overseas. That class was a stacked class.
For sure.
Shea was at the top of it. I felt like, he got so much so fast. And like it's always nice to kind of keep growing, and then like I said, circumstances happened.
For sure.
Yeah.
So during your high school career, you got to go to the famous Nike camp with the best high school players in the country. What do you remember about that experience?
Oh, it was great. I remember, like I said, the first year I was more shell shocked, so I didn't play as well. But like, say you get to Nike camp and you see this guy's the number one player in the country, this guy's number 5, this guy's number 8, this guy, and like you go into like a Nike room and then like I said, they just give you a week's worth of Nike stuff, like shoes, clothes you got to wear each day of the week. It's like insane. Like you go into a room and he's like, all right, what size shoe you wear? Here's these Jordans, and then, okay, with socks, Nike, you have to basically be Nike'd out for a whole week.
Yeah.
It's an insane process.
Even that alone is good.
Right?
Right, yeah.
And like I said, like it's just like you playing on like 3-4 different courts, at a time. And then like they just have college coaches. Every college coach in the world is there. So you'll see Krzyzewski, you'll see, when he was at Duke, you'll see Roy Williams from Kansas, you see North Carolina, Dean Smith, you see Jim Herrick, UCLA at the time, you'll see Kentucky, you see Syracuse. Everybody's just like, every time you make a score, every time you miss a shot, or whatever. Like, it got to a point where certain colleges, I won't say their names, but they were calling my room, like, hey, Travis, good game out there today, good job or whatever. You look good in that, it's a quote unquote uniform next year, Yeah, my first year was shell shock, even though my team, we won the whole thing as a team, but I didn't play that good. I had Mike Bibby on my team and my boy Corey Benjamin on my team. So, those are like the two like NBA guys that made it. And then going to my senior year, I had Larry Hughes on my team. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, that year I did, a lot better because I was, ready for the situation.
And you were a little older too.
A little bit older, a little bit better. And like I said, it was just cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you just see, like the best thing about it is like the top players in college, they're your counselors. So my junior year, Tim Duncan was there.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So I got to, talk to him, like Tim Duncan, there's like a bunch of counselors, from all over. Like, the next year, Vince Carter was there, Antoine Walker was there, a bunch of they get to play,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an eye-opening experience to say the least.
For sure. I'm going to ask you about Vince Carter in a little bit when you guys played North Carolina, but I'm going to save that for a second. I want to talk about you choosing to go to UCLA. Obviously, it's, local, close to home. Your dad was apparently a big UCLA fan. You grew up with that kind of in your mind. Was there any doubt that you would go anywhere but UCLA? Actually,
yes. When Jim Hare got fired over the scandal, I committed that night to Arizona.
Oh, you were going to go play for Lute Olson.
I was going to play for Lute Olson. I was going to play, but I was like, oh, if he fired, I ain't going to UCLA. Arizona, here we go. I committed to them, verbally committed. they called me back like, all right, Trav, happy, da-da-da. But at the time, I didn't pass the SAT. And at the time, you got to pass the SAT to go to college. So I didn't pass it till later on that year. And they kind of like not pulled the scholarship, but they kind of backed off a little bit until I passed it. And then as soon as Lavin became the coach, he was like, Trap, as soon as you pass, you come to UCLA, right? As soon as you pass it, him and Coach Holden was like, as soon as you pass it, you're a Bruin. So just pass it so you can become a Bruin, period. Wow. And to be honest, my UCLA was my dream school. It came down to 4 schools, UCLA, Arizona, Long Beach State, and Texas. Tennessee.
Okay.
5. So those are my top 5 schools that I really considered going. New York was just too far to go. I couldn't go leave my parents just yet. I was too much of a Cali kid. I actually thought about going to Rhode Island with Jim Herrick, but too far. I didn't know where.
Yeah, that's way too far.
Didn't know where Rhode Island was.
Yeah.
But UCLA was my dream school. Once they offered me, I was like, I can't turn them down.
And so now I want to talk about the guys you played with while you're there. We've already talked about a couple of them, but like Baron Davis, but also guys like Earl Watson, Matt Barnes, Jerome Moiso, Dan Gadzurik or Gadzurik, however you say it. You had a lot of talent on that team. So what do you remember about playing with those guys?
Pretty much it was, every day was fun. They were great guys. Like I said, I grew up with Earl. I've been knowing Earl since I was like 17, 16, maybe about 15. And I played with him in the Eddie Jones All-Star game. It was like the first time we all played together, me, him, and him. So I was like, oh yeah, Earl's gonna be good, because in an All-Star game, what he did, I've never seen done before. He picked up Kevin Augustine. Kevin Augustine was on the top guard in the state, going to SC. Earl picked Kevin Augustine up full court.
in an All-Star game? Yeah.
I said, oh, man, okay. And he was making a turn. Kevin Augustine had to work. I was laughing. I was like, man, I knew Earl was going to be something special after that. He was definitely going to be a special player because you don't do that in All-Star games. Nobody does that in All-Star games. He did that. And it was like bodying him up, playing hard defense, talking to him like in the All-Star game. Like I said, I was like, oh my God. He was an assassin from the jump. But playing with, like I said, Matt, the funny thing about the next year class, because they were the number 1 recruiting class in the country too. They had Ray Young, like you said, Jerome, Dan, Jerron Rush.
Oh yeah, Kareem Rush's brother. Yeah.
And the youngest brother played for Golden State and won the championship in 2005.
That's right.
Brandon Rush.
Yes.
Yeah, Brandon Rush. Matt was like the throw-in to them. Matt was like a top 50 player. Don't get me wrong. He was a great player in football and basketball. But all the other guys had the names. They were all the 4 of them was the Dallas All-Americans. And Jerome Moiso was a French dude who would have been a McDonald's All-American if he would have played in the States. So that, that like Matt was thrown, but he ended up having the longest career and having a great podcast career now. Like he's got a ring, all that.
I would ask you about Matt Barnes because I would have never thought he'd get into like sports media or podcasting or like I never saw that coming. So maybe you knew more than me, but did you ever see that for him?
No, like I said, he was always, like I said, Matt's a great guy. He's always been a great guy. He's always been cool, low-key guy. Funny thing is like when I met him, he was 1 tattoo. He was a kid from Sacramento, 1 tattoo. Funny jokester dude.
Yeah.
Now he got the tattoos on the neck and like all these tattoos and he blows a lot of smoke. Maybe he did then, I don't know. But,
sounds like it during his career. He said he used to do it all the time.
Yeah, he probably, maybe he did. I don't know. That wasn't, it was never me, but
sure.
He like I said, he was funny, just funny dude, freshman year, just a typical freshman, always joking, always just joking around. But like the talent, like I would say the talent of my sophomore year was probably the best talent in the country, not even close. We had 8 professional basketball players that played the next level.
Wow.
5 NBA pros. They had 10 years or up, or 4 of them had 10 years and up. And Jerome, who played 4 or 5, was a lottery pick. He was a top 8 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Forget that. He was like number 8 to Boston. So like I said, him, Dan, Matt, Barron, and Earl all played in NBA.
Crazy.
And me, Billy, and Ray, like all played, professional overseas. So,
are you surprised that group didn't win a national championship?
Yes and no. Yes, because like as far as talent wise, we had the most talent.
Sure.
And no, because we could have honestly been a dynasty. It was all freshmen and sophomores, like we were young and had a lot of talent. And then I think that like we had a lot of talent, but no substance as a team.
Like the chemistry wasn't there.
The chemistry wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I could just speak for myself.
Yeah.
Some games I would play 25 to 30 minutes. Some games I would play 6, and there was just no consistency for me. I would have stayed, and I wouldn't even cared if I would have kept coming off the bench.
Right.
I was consistently playing certain minutes, But for me, it was like, I couldn't deal with the inconsistency.
Right. And speaking of that, the guy who had to choose your playing time was Steve Lavin. So I wanted to ask about playing for him. Obviously a hell of a recruiter. But I just want to get your experience with him. He coached for a long time there. And for the most part, had some success. So what was it like for you to play for Lav?
Oh, like I said, it was, I went to UCLA because it was UCLA. Like Lavin was a great guy, but I went to UCLA because of UCLA. But like I said, Lavin, great guy, a good coach. But I just think that like we had, it's too much. We had too much talent in a way. And I think it was hard on him because like, look, I knew that Barron and Earl was going to play.
Right.
That was a given. Okay. And then the rest of us was just like in this mash unit of like whatever goes and sticks. Like if he's playing good, we'll just play him. If he's playing good, we'll just play him.
Yeah.
And there was no like, okay, Travis going to play 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Dan's going to play 20 minutes. It was kind of like Barron and Earl were here. And then everybody else is just in the unit, in the mash. And for me, I thought I was, at one point, I was like, well, I'm going to just go to school and I'll play. And then I got, a couple calls like, what do you mean not going to play? You better transfer, don't, like that's what my dad said. So I ended up going to Long Beach State. I was almost going to go to this close to going to Oklahoma. But I ended up staying home because my grandmother got sick, and so I just wanted to be around her.
Okay. One last thing on UCLA before we go to Long Beach State. I wanted to get that story about Vince Carter when you guys played them and you played North Carolina, and he caught an alley-oop against you guys. What do you remember about that?
Okay. Well, that was our first game. That was my first game in college, right? We played Vince Carter. We didn't have our whole team because Christian Giuliani was suspended at the time. So it was basically, Barron, Earl, like Toby, JR, and Brandon Lloyd starting. And then off the bench was myself, Rico Hines, Billy, and all these other freshmen. So we're up 7-0 against, Vince Carter. That's when they had Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson, Shaman Williams, Brandon Haywood was on that team.
Oh, wow. This was what, the 97 North Carolina team?
Yeah, 98, 97, 98.
Okay.
Yeah. They went to the Final Four that year.
That's right. Okay.
They went to the Final Four that year. And they went to the Final Four the year before, too. Like, it was like the new coach that just took over for Dean Smith. But he had all Dean Smith talent.
Right.
Right, yeah. So, anyway, I remember that because it was like we was up 7-0 and our bench was talking and we was playing like a zone and they did like the Patton in North Carolina like screen live play that they used to do for like Michael Jordan back in the day. And they did it for Vince. And so like I just remember like it was they threw a lob, Toby jumped to try to get it. Vince, like, this is when Vince jumped over him, like not over him, like chest to chest, but like took the ball out of his hand and flush dunked it like that. It's on YouTube if you ever want to see it.
I'll have to watch it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, UCLA, North Carolina, Alaskan shootout. And flush dunked it and ran down the court. It was like, y'all not going to win? And I was thinking like, man, we ain't going to
win. He was yelling at your bench already in the first quarter?
Yeah, he was laughing he was laughing at it like, y'all not going to win? And we just like, dang, maybe we not. And then they end up beating us by like 30, whatever it was. Like, oh,
wow.
Second thing is like they tipped the ball. Like I passed and he stole the ball. And I'm like, he's coming down this side of the court. I'm in the middle. So I'm like, I'm used to going to go get the block. So I'm like getting my steps together. And then I realized that, oh, that's Vince Carter. And so I slowed up and kind of looked at him and let him dunk it. And it was like, I didn't want to hurt him, but I was like, I ain't going to be on ESPN.
You didn't want to be on a poster that day.
Nah. So I was like, nah, I ain't gonna, I'm gonna let him go.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so you did end up, let's get back to going to Long Beach State. You go to play at the Pyramid, which is one of the coolest venues, I think, to play at in college basketball. It's just different, right? It's pretty cool. They don't really sell out, but it's just a cool venue. And most people know I actually went I didn't tell you this. I don't know if I told you, I went from U of A to Long Beach State. So I did go to Arizona. So yeah, I was there at the tail end of Lute Olson.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, you going to Long Beach State, and I just happened to look up your numbers, and everything pretty much tripled when you went to Long Beach State. You got playing, right? You got playing time, your rebounds, your points, your minutes, everything went up. It basically tripled. Was that kind of like a see, I told you I could play,
Yeah, like I said, I knew I could play.
Yeah.
I knew I could play at the next level. I just felt like I wasn't getting the right opportunity. And, for me, it was a situation where like, okay, the coach at the time was Wayne Morgan. He said, look, if you work hard, you'll play. And that'll be it. I won't play games with you. If you're not playing well, you'll sit.
Yeah.
If you play well, you'll play, period, And so I said, I can't even, okay, good. So at least I know where I stand. And he was honest with me, And so I came in there like, wanting to show that I can play, and so like whenever we would play like big teams, quote unquote, Texas A&M, we play like USC, UCLA wouldn't play us because it looks bad. It looks like a smear when you're playing against a transfer from UCLA.
Right.
Played us literally the year after I left.
Funny how that scheduling works out.
Yeah, right. The year after I leave, UCLA plays Long Beach State. So but yeah, like I was determined. And I made Big West first team both years. I felt like my first year I should have won MVP. They gave it to this dude named Jerry Green. Still, he knows. I interviewed him. I deserved it more than you now. But yeah, so I was, like I said, I was determined to show not only Lavin, but like, everybody that I can play,
Yeah. For sure. And then after your time there, you end up not playing in the NBA or at the time, the D League, now the G League, and you decide to start your overseas journey. What do you remember about the beginning of that? Like, how did you even get over there? Where'd you did you even know where you wanted to play? Did you anything about it?
No, when you go overseas, you're at the mercy of an agent. Like it's not like a team, pretty much I remember when I graduated college from Long Beach State in June. And my friend, I had a friend, Rock Lloyd, who played in the D League then. He told me about it. He was like, Trap, I'll be honest with you, it's not a lot of money because it was like $2,500 a month. And you might be stuck in like Willacoochee, Georgia. No, nothing against Willacoochee, Georgia, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or Albuquerque, New Mexico, staying in an apartment, like 4 of the dudes. It's basically like you're getting paid, but you're playing college. And I was like, I don't know, and then he was like, I'm about to go across that water. I was like, what you mean? He was like, I'm about to go overseas. So he went to Dominican Republic. He said he made like, $9,000 a month, $10,000 a month or something. I was like, you don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I thought about it, like, maybe I should just go into the G League or D League at the time.
Yeah.
And try to, make the league. Because I thought I was going to get drafted like number 56 or something, like from Memphis, because they used to come to our practices a lot. But then when I saw they did draft like 3 or 4 power forwards in my spot, I was like, well, even if they did draft, they ain't going to make the team.
Right.
So I went to Bogota, Colombia. He had an agent, my friend Rock. He had an agent, and the agent saw me my junior year. And was like, oh, he can play. Travis can play. Let me talk to him next year. So he hooked me up with him. And he was like, I got you. I can get you a job right now. and I needed rent money. So, because school stopped paying when you graduate.
Right.
So I needed rent money. So I went to Bogota, Colombia was the first place I went. Went over there, made like $4,000 for like a month, and then made another $2,000 for I went like for say 2 months. I got $8,000, came back, signed a deal to go to Poland while I was over there in Bogota, and then came back for like a week, then went to Poland. The coach didn't like me because I wasn't 6'10". Didn't matter. Like if I was averaging 20, like I played in the preseason and I was, doing my thing.
Yeah.
He just, he's not 6'10". We're looking for somebody 6'10", and just cut me.
That's weird.
Yeah. Trust me. It's the stories I've heard and seen in overseas, insane. Trust me.
I have one story I wanted to ask you about that you mentioned, so I feel like it's fair to ask. When you were in Colombia, one of the owners brought some gifts after the game. What happened there?
Okay, yeah. I was hoping.
I'm only asking because I heard you say it before.
Yeah, no, I said just skip over that one, but nah. We won a big game.
Yeah.
Against like the best team, the number one team. And we're just, chilling. Pretty much everybody stayed in this hotel because, like wherever I went, there was no cops. The army was the cops.
Okay.
So if I went anywhere, I had 2 armed military guys with me at all times wherever I went. They, like wherever I had to go anywhere, say I went to, most of the time I just went to the international call station, which was like a block away from the hotel.
You didn't go to like Medellin or something like that?
We did. We played there.
Okay.
And like I said, if Cocaine Cowboys, if my mom would have saw cocaine, she would have like, oh no, you ain't going to.
Yes, because I watch Narcos, man, and that's
me too.
Crazy, man. Yeah,
me too. And like I said, it wasn't like Medellin. I didn't know, but even they had a nice court, nice team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like whenever I went anywhere, I had 2 armed policemen with AK-47s and machine guns and pistols and all that stuff with me at all times as bodyguards. And like the owners, they have like 6 or 7 of those dudes. Because some of them was like the drug dealers, I'm assuming. They had the cream outfits looking like Tony Soprano.
Right.
I'm not Tony Soprano, Tony Montana.
Right. Or Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, Pablo joints. It was that time we beat the best team. And so the owners walk in and like, we want to say good job to you guys. We're like, thanks, man, we appreciate it. We thinking like, we about to get some money. So they open the door, like the double doors to the hotel, and then 5 women come in. 10 women come in, 15 women come in, 20, 25, 30. We're like, what the heck is going on here? Right? And they said, pick which one, whatever one you want, take 2, take 3. Right? So me and the other Americans are like, mouth on the ground.
Yeah.
Shocked.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I had a girlfriend at the time, and I don't know how I'm gonna explain this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna explain this. And so like I remember the funniest thing that night was our coach was like kind of heavy set dude. He had 3 women with him, and my teammate was like, man, what you gonna do with 3 women? He was like, hey, watch. I take care. We couldn't stop laughing.
They're already paid for, so
Yeah, he was like, like the owners, they took it, whatever, and it was, the teammates they took. We just stayed downstairs. Me and the other American, we just chilled. We wasn't,
Gotcha.
doing that, but it was a shocking, like I was like an eye opening, like whoa,
for sure.
Yeah.
Plus, I would think, not that, I don't know, in the moment, you probably wouldn't think about this, but like just watching Narcos, like those women are probably connected to someone that I don't want to deal with. You know what I mean? So I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
On a lighter, lesser graphic, I guess you could say, note, you also talked about when you were in mainly the European countries that how much people smoke cigarettes all the time. And the arena would be covered in clouds of smoke while you're playing. What do you remember about that? Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example of that. We were in Croatia playing in like the ULIP Cup, and we played this team. I forgot it was a team from Croatia. I can't think of the name. And so the people are smoking and blowing it up in the air, and it's like everybody in the crowd, because Europe, they smoke like they're chain smokers. So people talking about having like a pack a day addiction. They're like 2 packs a day. They literally smoking and lighting a cigarette while they're smoking the last one, flick it, and then, like that. And I'm talking about everybody, even my coach. My coach in Holland ran 4 miles, 5 miles a day, but also smoked a pack of cigarettes a day. It's insane. So like we're in the gym. It's like a cloud of smoke on top of like the air, so you can't breathe. And their European players are fine because they smoke too.
Right.
They smoke a pack of cigarettes, and they're okay. Man, we must have got whipped because I'm like, dude, I can't breathe. I'm like, covering my mouth with a towel, like to try to breathe, not to try to breathe the smoke in. I'm like coughing. I'm like, man, how the hell do you play in this?
Seriously. And they used to say, I think Vlade Divac used to smoke at halftime or something like that, even here in the States.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He did. Like in Europe, the Americans, they smoke. I mean, not Americans, in Europe.
The Europeans smoke, yeah.
Europeans smoke. And they smoke a lot. That's what they do. It's just, that's just normal. Like if you go to the club, any club, your clothes will be drenched in smoke.
Yeah.
Wow. So all the time. Because like they have a smoke area in the club, which I've never seen in the States.
Right.
Like just like you just bam, like the club is here and then like the smoke area is right there. Crazy. They even have smoke breaks in the middle of movies.
In the middle of the movies?
Yeah. One time I went to see Minority Report, and then the movie cut off. We're like, man, what happened? Like the movie messed up. It's like, oh no, smoke break in the middle of the movie. It's like, wow. You can't 2 hours. They would have a smoke break in the middle of the movie.
That's crazy. That would never happen here. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. They're wild over there.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about, I guess you would call it your prime years from 03 to 06. You were in the Netherlands, or I think it's called Holland, whatever. And you were the Dutch MVP in 2004. Where was your game at that point? Did you feel like maybe you could get a shot at the NBA or the D League again? Like where do you think you were basketball wise?
I thought I was in the greatest shape of my life at the time. Like I said, 03 to about 07, because I did the 4 years in Holland, and then I did my first year in Estonia. Like that first year, like Estonian, I was Baltic League MVP, Estonian MVP, Baltic League All-Star, FIBA Cup All-Star, led the Baltic League in scoring, all that. That was my first year in Estonia.
Okay.
But like from 03, I won statistical MVP. In 04, I won league MVP. We won the championship. I was basically the top, top big man in the country for like those, 3-4 years. I thought about it. I actually played in the summer league up at Long Beach State with my Barons. Like they have like the NBA teams, and then they have like the free agent teams. And Barron put a team in there, and we actually won it. We won the championship. Like me, Baron Davis, Billy Knight played. I met the rapper Game.
The Game, really?
Yeah, I met the Game.
Because he can play a little bit.
Oh, he can play. He's the best rapper I've seen. He can really play. He was on that team. So yeah, like I said, like I thought about it, and they thought I was not going to come back to Holland, because what they do in Europe is like they try to sign you. If you're a good player, they try to sign you early before you leave.
Right.
So I remember when I was in Holland, they started asking me in December, like to come back, for the next year. And like they would say, okay, what about this? What about this money? Okay, what about that money? What about that money? What about that money? And I was like, oh my God, I'm weak. I can't take it. It's just okay. The agent was like, look, man, you can play it out, or you can take this money now. And I just always took the security, So
yeah, I think maybe nowadays you probably would have gotten a shot, because there's more video now. There's more scouts going over there now. So that it's kind of like, it sucks. If you're that good in the Euro leagues, like they take dudes from there all the time now.
Oh, the league, the NBA is so different. To be honest, like back then I was a tweener. I was kind of like, I was like a power forward, small forward type, big dude. Like I was, let's just say like, no, I'm not saying I'm Zion, but like a Zion, Draymond Green type.
I was thinking like Lamar Odom. Were you that kind of guy?
Yeah, like Lamar Odom. Yeah. Okay. Like that, like left-handed, can make moves, right? Basket, you could score on big. Like, so now I think I would have played in the NBA. Like not even question. Right. But back then it was like center, 7 foot, power forward, 6'10", swingman, 6'7", like that.
Right. So if you played big at 6'8", 6'9", it's not, you're like a Zach Randolph almost, right?
Yes.
Like you don't really fit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how my game was like similar to Zach, but similar, like you said, to Lamar. Like it was like a mix of like all that.
Right.
And like it helped for me because Europe is a different kind of game than the States. The States would have been not easier because it's obviously better players, but it was more wide open. In Europe, it's a more physical, slow down game.
Right. And I was going to ask you about some of the guys you played against there. So I think you mentioned you saw like Ricky Rubio out there. You saw Marc Gasol early on. I forget. Rudy Fernandez.
Yeah, pretty much. I saw Ricky Rubio. He was like 16 at the time, 16, 17. He was starting in Spain, and that doesn't happen because Spain is the number 2 league in the world. And I saw Rudy Fernandez. He actually got drafted already by Portland, and he went over. And then Rubio got drafted top 10. Where did he go?
That was the infamous, I think it was like 07.
The infamous where Minnesota took 3-point guards and didn't take Steph.
They took Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn from Syracuse over Steph. One of my buddies at T-Wolves fan, I give him shit for it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I always laugh because that's the most insane. You take 2-point guards, and I think they took
did they take someone else too? Oh, maybe they had him, or maybe, yeah.
They took like 3, and then they took all 3. None of them was Steph.
No.
So,
but you got to see Rubio early on, right? Yeah.
I saw them early because they were playing with my boy Jerome Wiesio. He was in Spain.
Right. Okay.
So I watched him, and then I saw them, and I played against Marc Gasol. He was getting drafted that summer.
Okay.
He was in Spain making a whole lot of money. And he was so big, I had to guard him, And he could have scored 40 on me, really. He was so big, he was unstoppable. But he scored like 15. He had a nice touch around the basket. He was a little bit heavier then, but he was nice. And then the Lakers drafted him that year and traded him for his brother.
Right. Did you ever see Powell play out there with Spain? Or
no. Powell was in the NBA, yeah. I wasn't that one.
Okay, I thought maybe like the FIBA stuff or one of those tournaments or whatever. No,
I was like, if I would have became a citizen, which I thought about for Estonia, I could have, maybe obviously got a double passport, but I didn't. I just kept playing and just was like whatever. But like, Powell was Powell played with Mark. Yeah, Mark was good. I played against some NBA guys and some guys who got drafted but just never went. And that's what happens. Like a lot of NBA teams draft these guys, and a lot of them just they sign these long deals in Europe, and the NBA just have to wait.
Right.
To get out of their contracts.
Do you remember any other like Americans that came over there and did really well that were like notable names that you played against or with?
I played against Vincent Yarborough, which was the infamous guy that Kobe did the behind the back.
Okay.
Dunk on.
Okay.
He played in Belgium over there. I played against the head coach of Boston Celtics now. He played in Spain.
Oh yeah. Is it Udoka maybe?
Yeah. He played he was in Spain at the time. I played against him. Could play solid. Really, really good player. Like I said, there was a lot of guys who, they had cups of coffee, except for dang, I can't even think of his name now. If it comes to me doing the thing, I'll let you know. But I played against a lot of guys and great European players that played overseas. I played the NBA. It was more of them.
Yeah.
More than
when as far as like the timing of when you decided to hang it up, when did you kind of know it was time for you to stop playing? And when you is if the money's pretty good over there, it's hard to leave. So when did you know it was time to come home and stop playing?
To be honest with you, it was a situation where I was, a couple surgeries in on my legs. I have stress fractures in both my shins.
Okay.
I still have the steel plates in my legs to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was taking a lot of pills, the kind of pain pills to play. And to be honest, I just came off a decent year in Australia, my last year. I was first team all league, led the league in field goal percentage, went to the championship. And I thought okay, maybe I can squeeze out one more year, maybe a couple. But the money I was getting offered, it just wasn't It wasn't
worth it. Yeah.
It wasn't worth it. And it was just like, I had a son at the time. He was 3. And I already had missed 3 years of his life, you know, playing. And like I said, I would have continued to play if the money would have been good. But after I got injured, the money just kept dipping. And just like I said, it just became not worth it to go.
Yeah. What was maybe your favorite place to play over there or anywhere outside of the US?
I would say this. If I had anywhere to live, like besides US, and that's in Europe, it would be Spain. Barcelona was beautiful.
Okay.
Barcelona was like, oh my God, it was beautiful. If I spoke Spanish, if I had a Spanish, you know, like spoke Spanish, I would live there. It's insane. But I think I enjoyed my time in all 3 places. Estonia probably was the best party place.
Okay.
Because like they party hard, they drink vodka heavy. Like, you know, vodka's cheaper than juice out there. So
oh wow.
Yeah, they drink, they go hard and they have fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Holland's great. Holland was great. But Estonia, Australia was good because everybody spoke English.
Right.
Or their form of English.
And Australia's got some dudes nowadays that play in the NBA. And like, could you tell that there was talent down there when you were playing?
Yes.
Was that starting yet?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it wasn't like obviously Kyrie, Ben Simmons talent, Andrew Bogut. Right. But they had, like I said, talented guys. I saw a couple of guys, played against a couple of guys I saw that was on the Olympic team.
Okay.
So like they have, you know, like they take it serious. Rugby obviously is the #1 sport over there.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it was, you know, like it was, like I said, cool. Like I said, they had a lot of, you know, Australia had a lot of talent that was like, you know, really, really good talent. Holland had some talent. Dan Gadzierek, you know, obviously.
Yeah.
And Francisco Escobar. But he played for the Spurs when they won the championship. He was a backup center for the Spurs. He played for Cal. I played against him when he was at Cal, and then he played for the Spurs. Francisco something. He was center.
Okay. I'm trying to remember his name but the Spurs just rotate so many European players, I can't keep up with
them. Yeah. Like I said, he played at Cal with Sean Marks. They played together.
Got it.
I can't think of his Francisco something.
Okay.
He was Dutch. He was the guy that was on the Dutch team.
Okay.
Playing at the time. But yeah, like Australia has some good dudes too.
Yeah.
They play like a physical brand, like real physical.
Like I think Steven Adams from New Zealand, but that kind of player.
Yeah. Like Steven Adams, Andrew Bogut.
Right.
You know, like I said, Ben Simmons.
Big, tough dudes, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like tough, like physical dudes. Like Patty Mills.
Oh, yeah.
And Patty Mills, and then like, you know, he's a little bit younger. And then Kyrie Irving, you know, he has like, it's because his dad played over there.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, Australia was a good league.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to move to what you were doing now. So last year you had a podcast called Travis Reed, A Basketball Life, but now you're switching to something called Athlete's Journey on YouTube. So tell us about that.
Well, pretty much what happened was I did my podcast, and the podcast was basically the story. It was dedicated to 2 people. One being my best friend who passed away, Billy Knight. I played overseas 15 years. I've been on since I was 15 years, since he was 15 and I was 15. Because people don't realize like the journey and the story of athletes is like a hard transition.
Definitely.
Super hard. To where like we don't know what, because when I retired, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was 33. If I'm God willing, I'll live till I'm 93 or 83 or whatever. That's a long time of living without basketball.
Sure.
You know, and so for me, I had to figure out what it is I wanted to do. He couldn't figure it out, I thought, in my opinion. So things happened, and obviously he did what he did. But I dedicated to him, and then I dedicated to my son, because my son asked me, he's like, Dad, one day he asked me, Dad, you know, like, how was your life overseas? And I was like, son, that's a long and complicated answer. You know, and then I thought about it for like a week, and then I said, let me do a podcast. And so I did a podcast of about 10 years overseas. You know, it took me about 25 episodes, 20 episodes, whatever it was. And then so like a lot of athletes like, man, I love your story. I would love for you to talk to me about mine. And I was like, ding. And so I created a show called An Athlete's Journey, where I interview other former athletes or current or, you know, like whatever, future kind of thing.
Sure.
But mostly now it's just former, you know, just to talk about their journey of how they started ball.
Right.
And how it ends when the lights go out? Like, what's the next step? Because a lot of people don't really know. Like, it's a transition. You know, I have a lot of dudes and friends who said they had, had to go to therapy. They had, a lot of stuff after because they didn't know what to do.
When you lose your identity as an athlete, that's all you were, right? It's hard to be passionate about something else right away. You don't know where to go.
It's a drug, man. It's a drug that it's hard to feel that high with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then people wonder why athletes do like have substance abuse or whatever the case is. It's because they can't feel the drug. Like you can't feel the void with the drug left.
Sure.
And some of that's fame, some of that's camaraderie with your teammates, some of that's just being an athlete, So for me, like I've been doing that show for almost a year now.
Nice.
But I think like I'm got some other projects coming. Maybe I get back into the podcast field to do something like some different stuff too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Is it a weekly show or is it every?
Yeah. It comes on every Thursday. Usually every Thursday at like 7 p.m. Actually, I just did an interview that's be coming on Thursday, 7 p.m. live.
Nice.
Doing an athlete, Trey Williams, LA native kid, California guy. And he had to figure out what he was going to do after ball, because he didn't want to go back overseas for the money. So that's just like a typical how things end sometimes. People wonder why like athletes hang on like
as long as they can.
As long as they can. Like Michael Jordan with the Wizards. Kobe Bryant, the last like couple years of his career. You know? And those are the greats. Keem Olajuwon with Toronto, Patrick Ewing with Seattle.
Right. It's hard to give it up, man.
Yeah,
it's what have you kind of taken away from now that you're interviewing people versus just now instead of just used to telling your story, now you're interviewing people on the other side? What's it been like on the other side of it?
Oh, it's actually pretty cool because for me, I interject because some of the stories they talk about is interesting to me too. And so I enjoy them. I enjoy oh man, you was here and here, or like, man, that's crazy. Your story is crazy. Like I remember when I was this and that. It's kind of the same.
Sure. Thing. Yeah. Well, it's called Athlete's Journey. It's on YouTube every Thursday. Check them out. Travis, I really appreciate the time, man. Thanks for sharing your story and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to find out what's new going on, just follow me at Travis W. Reed on Instagram or Travis W. Reed on Facebook. That way, like I said, my page is open on Instagram, so you can just follow me and you'll see everything I have going.
I will do that myself, and I'll have everyone do it too. Everyone else listening. I appreciate it, man. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
My thanks to Travis Reed. Go check him out at Travis W. Reed on Instagram and his series on YouTube, Athlete's Journey. I think you guys will enjoy that. A lot of experiences from his basketball days, and he's been on some other podcasts too. So great to have him on and share his story. Really appreciate that. My thanks to Travis. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast on Instagram. I do a lot of video content there. Please check me out. Lots of new updates and sports topics and more interactive stuff there. So check me out on Instagram at Too Tall Sports Podcast. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. You can check me out there. Also, my YouTube channel is Too Tall Sports Podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Definitely helps boost the show rankings and all that stuff and getting more likes. And so every video you see, if you could like it and share it, that'd be awesome. Drop a comment, what you guys think. I love to hear feedback. I don't hear enough feedback from my listeners. So get back to me on what you guys like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, all that stuff. I would love to do more episodes that are interactive with my guests and interactive with my followers as well. Speaking of that interaction, every Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. I said it in the beginning of the episode. I'll say it again now. 7:30 Pacific time. Every Tuesday night, I'm on YouTube Live. You can watch me and you can chat. You can comment. I do a half an hour show. Biggest topics I've seen over the last week to last few days. Going over NFL recaps, baseball playoffs, NBA stuff, golf, whatever. I do it all. College football. So hit me up. You guys can join in the show. YouTube Live, Too Tall Sports Podcast, Tuesday nights, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. If you just want to do the audio, no problem there. You can go to Colorcast. That's an app, one word, Colorcast. And you can go to Too Tall Sports with me, and then you'll see the show on there, and you can click in and listen on the audio side as well. 7:30 p.m. Pacific, Tuesday nights. Check me out there. As always, you can listen to my show that drops on Thursday mornings, every Thursday on Apple Podcasts as well. If you haven't already, hit the 5 stars on the episode page. If you haven't left a review yet, I would love those as well. Right below the stars, you can leave a nice review if you love the content, which I'm sure you do. Especially if you're listening at this point in the episode. I appreciate you all. Thank you very much. And also, we're on Spotify, we're on Google Play, Amazon Music, Pandora, everywhere you get your podcast. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. Have a very too tall day. Get bigger, height-wise, But anyway, have a great day. Talk to you soon.